Thanks very much for having me here today. I suppose before I start, I should say I'm very, very lucky. We're a private business, and when you don't have board members and you don't work for an organisation, you can say what you like. So it's ours is a family business. We started with I had 2,000 sheep on the road and started from there. And probably one of the biggest things I think we've got to always watch for ourselves that we stick to the knitting and stick with the industry, I know. So virtually we've linked the chains together from the farms right through to our customers around the world. The other advantage we got, we're a tight family knit, and I got to say my wife's been a great help to me. And when we first started, it was just me and her. She done the books and I done the fighting. But the most important then to make these work, you've got to have a good team, and you've got to have a team from the bottom up. And what we do is try and train those people from the bottom. We virtually bring no one in from outside, and we try and mentor them through. And I think that's one of the great privileges we got as a company. My life, I was very lucky because I've had some very good mentors, and I think we in society have got a huge problem in front of us, where families, the parents are both working, the kids are in it on their computers. I never had that problem because I never had a computer. But so we need mentors, and I was very lucky. My first person to teach me in business was my mother, was when she was telling me how to sell rabbits when I was 6 or 7 years old, and catching them, picking up the dead wool and minding sheep on the stock reds. So really, my start was Droughts, and that's where my success come from. And the other great mentors is, I had a great football coach when I was 12, and I still use his advice. Never met him after I left school. And a lot of business people through the time I got to thank that's helped me through to make us what we are today. And I think without those mentors, and I think that's something we've got to do a bit better work on for us. It's the village that makes the child, not just the family. And you know, I've had a bit of a dust up with the union in Dubbo this week. They come out there bearing gifts and saying why we're not putting more locals in. If they were doing their job, get the people off drugs and they'd all have jobs. Having the best team and having the links in the chain is about trust. And I think that's one of the things that we've instilled into my family and everyone is trust our business, trust our customers, and get in front of the game and not putting out bushfires. I think if you're out putting bushfires out all the time, your business is going to fail. I suppose the other thing I've done, and sometimes I do fall off the perch, sometimes the bankers might tell me this, but dream, but live within your means. You can't dream of things that's past what you can do. And if you want to stay a private business and be loyal to customers, you've got to stay with you can do that properly. I think that's good enough on the family. I'll go through where we're at as the industry and where we see the world, where it's changing. We're always going to have droughts and floods. There's a lot of moaning out there about the droughts. Yes, it's a real problem. The challenge is handling them. If you look across the world today, there's droughts and floods all over the world. Unfortunately, the media puts it all out and everyone's got it. So what we've got to do, and the government's got to do, is it's like feeding a bushfire when the fire's passed. We've really got to prepare for droughts in water and fodder for our stock. If we do that, it helps holding the town together. It helps a lot for mental health. And I think, you know, if a person knows he's got a bit of hay in the shed, he might have no feed, but at least he can go to bed at night and think he can escape. And I think that's terribly important. We had our chance 3 or 4 years ago, and there wasn't enough effort put into it. I hope we learn out of it this time. Where we are in the world today, Australia's a different place to what it was a few years ago. Why? Australia was, we were in a great situation where we were isolated from other countries, and our biosecurity's very lucky to be in that position. But we're a long way from the rest of the world. That has changed dramatically in the last few years. I was only looking the other day, it's only 49 years ago when the first ship brought containers into Australia. I think what we've achieved in those 49 years and the great benefit John Howard and them done fixing up the wharves was probably the biggest opening of our meat industry in history, because we now can slide containers anywhere in the world and we can be there within a week, of what we say. So the customers don't have to hold huge stocks. As the world wants more product that they can secure and control with temperatures, that's a must. Can't let that drop. The other thing is, as the Middle Eastern planes come in and it's a central hub, we've had a massive change. And today, a lot of products go by air out of this country that way. And that's the other one. And the other thing is communications. Communications are so good today. For instance, in Dubbo, we've got businesses around Australia. We service all these countries and we don't have to go to town. We can do everything from the office. And I can say one thing, I've never made a mistake on a computer. I've never used one. I employ others to do it. I think I got other things to do. So that's the opening for Australia. I do think we've got some issues in front of us and some challenges. We've probably made mistakes over the years. And what I'd like to discuss is the problem of we want to send our raw materials to these countries in Asia. That's going to change, and we're probably guilty of some of that. And why I say that is as we go down the track of these countries improving their state, they're not going to take our rubbish. And we've got to change. We've been told, but I don't think anyone in this country is listening. And I'll just give you a few instances. Iron ore, they want the high quality iron ore, they want the high quality coal because they don't want the pollution in their country. They've stopped taking the rough plastic from our used plastic and taking it back. No, you keep your rubbish in your country. I'm very worried about even our wool scours, sheepskins, cattle hides, those sorts of products. We're probably looking at the long bow over the next few years, and a lot of our mining stuff that we do today, we should be dissecting it and managing it in this country. And there's ways that can be done. The government talks about dropping company tax and that sort of thing. If you could do tax deductions on the new equipment coming in, which should be. When you take a trains, we buy new trains, the rest got old hackers. Why don't the people buy new trains? 25 years to write them off. Ridiculous. Or you build a new sheds or machinery, or a lot of the stuff we are 25 years. So people, they got to buy it and then pay the tax on it is not correct. That could be a big change. I think if the government's got any guts, that's what they should be doing, instead of just pilfering the money off us every day. In our company, we've worked out that we are paying a tax virtually every working day we work. Now that's incredible. When I say a tax, a lot of it is their own makings, because we do wool taxes, grain taxes, cotton taxes, lamb taxes, payroll tax, super, pay tax, just keeps going. And here we are employing people to do the government's job. They keep saying, do that and look at all the things we're going to give you. So they take 100 out of one hand and we get 20 or 30 back in the other hand. Leave it with the company to grow forward. That'll do on the government side. Where we are with the sheep meat industry, I think after 30 years of pain, of bad management on our side, I'll go down the wool side first. We never talked to our customer, and we decided we'd hold all the wool in the market and tell them what the price they were going to pay for it. So we didn't only bust their customers, we broke the bank. Biggest bankruptcy in Australia's history. And it's taken 30 years to get out of jail. Don't let it happen again. And I could see that coming a mile off. When you try and manipulate markets and manipulate taxes, you will bust the industry. And you can have a look at it in Europe, for instance, where they could produce as much wheat and subsidise, or meat and wheat as they could, and they were subsidised, so the land prices went up. But then to pull it back off when they tried to take the subsidies off, just killed the country. And that happens with us. We did it with the wine industry, we did it with the blue gums, with the wood chips. We just keep doing it. And I'd say you could do it with the housing industry. Same problem. You've got to let natural things happen because you can subsidise and help, but one day you've got to pull the rug from under it, and that's when it hurts everybody. On the sheep meat industry, I think we've got some great times in front of us, but we've got some issues. The sheep meat industry today is virtually the biggest agricultural export industry in Australia, the sheep, meat and wool. It's not big enough to go under one roof. Do we need 50 different organisations going to government? The poor old ministers, I just feel so sorry for them, because you just, every day if you go there, you just see a lineup of people seeing them. The bureaucrats who've gone to university, never been in business, and why wouldn't it be a shambles? And everyone wants something. I never see a newspaper where every day, oh, we should be getting more aid here, more help there. Crazy. So I would love to see the day where the sheep industry and the wool industry is under one roof. Why would I want to sit in a meeting with the bloody drought master people in the Northern Territory and they're going to yap on for 3 or 4 hours? I'm too busy to be in those businesses anymore. I'll go home and run my own business to the peril of the country. So it's got to change. There's that much money in these organisations in funds, and they all say, oh, we need it for security. Well, I don't know any farmer that's got millions and billions of dollars sitting in their accounts, and half the time the boards they're looking after their money. The other thing on the sheep industry, access into markets is one of our biggest. As I said, we've got the container trade right. We are slowly moving into these things. The free trade agreements we did for the sheep meat side for Korea and China has been a great help, and it's still working our way down the tariffs, and the benefits are still coming over the next 3 or 4 years. We were so far behind, it's New Zealand, it's not funny. Understanding our customers is, we're the right people to handle the customers. We know we can talk to them, what we're processing, what we're going to sell to them. The customer is the most important person we've got in our business. We must look after the customer, and if we look after our customers, I have no fear of them going to some other person, because they know we're looking after them, and they won't wander off for half a cent a pound or something to someone else. And I think that's the greatest challenge we got in our company, to do that. The other point about the sheep industry in Australia, we're the largest wool producer of raw material in Australia, but the pipeline is massive after that. All we're doing is buying the raw material which is, at the end of the day is only probably 8% of the finished product. So we just can't say it's our business. Look down the customers. And luckily we got rid of the stockpile. The wool looks a great thing in front of us, because over the next period they're short, we've got to build our supply up. And it's the same as the sheep meat industry. What killed the sheep meat industry? Well, you know how we wrecked the wool industry, so we fixed them up in New Zealand and give them a hiding, so they paid us back. They took acquisition of the lamb industry and completely wiped us out, where lamb meat was worth nothing. Why did they wipe us out? They had 250,000 tonne in store. How do you think we could sell lamb or mutton when it was that way? They were a bit smarter than us on the mutton. They just subsidised the mutton and put them down the chute. That's how crazy it was. So I say, let market forces take their place and it'll run itself. How do we challenge that? By being in enough markets that we don't have to glut one of my customers. The biggest fear my customers got, that I'm going to sell to another person down the road at a lower price. So what we've done as a company, got ourselves around the world so well that we don't have to frighten our customer, that we can go into another country with that product. Today we can cut a lamb up coming into the shed. It can end up in 60 different customers. That's how far we've come down the road. But with that, it takes a lot of money and a lot of good people and a lot of computers and a lot of things handling them, massaging the loadouts. But we're in a great situation. The lamb industry is changing. The farmer wants to grow bigger lambs, which is a great idea, gets more money. But the consumer wants smaller packs. It's our challenge to look after the consumer and reward the farmer. And we're in the middle, and we've all got to work together on that. All the links in the chain got to work together, and unfortunately we're so dismantled from MLA, AMPC, RMAC. It's crazy. One sheep industry, it would be the greatest thing in my life if I could pull that off, and this industry will go forward. If we want to put our heads in the sand and let it go on for another 30 years, I've failed the industry. I mean, I'll just give you an instance. For 18 years we've been trying to change the definition of hogget. All of a sudden they all wanted to change it. Now we're tied up with red tape because there's too many bodies in it. That should have been done years ago. The other things that we've got to do is a lot of the best research. We got great people out there that do the first part of research, but it ends up in a piece of an envelope or on a computer and never gets used. There must be companies go with the research organisation to be able to do it. Otherwise we're wasting the money, and that's not real smart. The greatest research we've done inside our company has been done privately by ourselves or working with a machinery guy or some company, and no paperwork and no rubbish. We go forward 10 times quicker, and it's one of the reasons where we can be successful. And you know, on that chain system from farmer to our customer, one link in the chain's broken, we're all broken. So the sheep industry went under one roof, and I think we've got 20 years of real success in us. Nowhere in the world, and we have another problem. In the world, we're the leaders in wool and sheep meat, and New Zealand's on the side. We're going to belt them up soon. And there's a reason for it, because as our tariffs come off, we're going to catch them. We're responsible for the sheep industry in the world, and I think we should be helping some of those countries improve the quality of their sheep meat, eating qualities, and I think we're doing a lot of work on eating quality. We said our biggest issue, where we're working close with our customer, trying to get the pack to them that they can use it the easiest and the best, and then looking at the two links coming together. We've got a great industry in front of us, and I've been very lucky to be born when I was, processed a lot of council abattoirs. That was a crazy socialist system where everyone wanted an abattoir in every town, so then they all collapsed. One's building it, so everyone else should be building them. How much did that cost the governments? There was 47 in Australia, all gone. The other part that's an interesting one is, if you have a look at our railways, you know, admittedly it was done crazy years ago where they're all different width rails, but New South Wales give up their position a few years ago, and now it's gone private. We're moving forward. We're way in front of Queensland and Victoria, and I can say to you, we can do containers cheaper to Sydney than Gunnedah and Dubbo is about the same distance. 30 years ago, it cost me more to cart a container to Sydney from Gunnedah to Sydney as we can do it from Dubbo to Sydney today. That's how much we've improved. We've absorbed 30 years of that type of business. Private enterprise. Governments, get out of the things they shouldn't be in. And I say that for councils. Councils own businesses everywhere, and they all fail. They should be in looking after the water, the sewage, the parks, the gardens. But that's not enough sprite for a lot of councils. They want to be in business and they send them all broke. Anyway, with that, I'll take a few questions.